How you doing there? Welcome back to Babylon Talmud. Today we're studying Daf Samach Vav, Daf 66 of Masechta BavaKama. Friends, friends. Today's kind of interesting. We're starting to venture into some new stuff, which is kind of cool. We're talking about shinois, right? Yeah, shinois, yeush, interesting stuff. Yeah, interesting stuff. Yeah. Shinuis and Yeush. Interesting stuff. Interesting stuff. Now, we have a whole chunk to do, a chunk to do on Daf Samach Amud Beis, and also we're going to get through a big chunk of Daf Samach Zayin Amud Aleph, which isn't such a big Amud. This might be somewhat of a long Daf. We'll have to see. Samach Vav itself actually happens to not be super long. But we have some work to do on Samach and I'd like to make some headway into the Samach Zayin as well. So that's where we're at. Oh, that's interesting. All right. So that's the deal. At the end it gets a little bit technical, which it just is what it is. But for the most part, I think we're talking about relatively interesting stuff. Do I have your permission to begin? Okay, so we're going to start on Daf Samach Amud Beis at the last of the thin lines. I stopped there just because now we're getting into new stuff, and I figured let's just start with the new stuff. It's getting into shinois and stuff. Omer Reb Illa says, Reb Illa, Gonav Tolev v'naise ayil. Oh, interesting. Egel v'naise shor. Naise shinui b'yodoi v'kanoo tavachumocha shlo toveach Shelo hu mocher. Very interesting stuff, right? So be'etzem, he steals a baby sheep, and then it becomes, which is called a tole, and then it becomes an ayil. It becomes into a ram. A ram, I think, is when it's 1 year old, 2 years old, maybe 2 years old. Ayil, I don't remember. But does it say anything? I didn't even look that up. I just took it for granted. It's a big sheep. Let's see. I don't know. A big sheep. Is there a pasuk actually? No, I don't know. I don't know. How big is an ayil? I don't remember. 1 year, 2 years, maybe 3 years. I can't remember. It's a big sheep. So if he stole a little sheep and it comes a big sheep, he stole a calf and now it's an ox. Okay. So again, Amar Billa says, Rabbi Gonav Tolev and I say ayil. So he stole a little tole, but now it's an ayil. Egel, he stole a ram, he stole a calf. V'naisa shor, now it's a shor, now it's an ox. So naisa shinu biyado, so that is a shinui. That's a shinui, it's a change. V'kano, and that shinui is enough to make a kinyan, because this change occurred after he had stolen it while it was in his possession. That is enough to make a kinyan, that counts, it's now his, since the animal went through this change in his possession. And therefore, tavachumacher, if he, tavachumacher, if he therefore slaughters it, or if he sells it, he's not responsible for Dalet Vehei, Shelo hu toveach, Shelo hu mocher. Because after all, it's his. He's slaughtering or selling his own animal. Eis Reb Chanina l'Reb Illa, Reb Chanina, however, asks a kasha on Reb Illa. Gonav tole v'naisa ayil, if a fellow steals a tole and it becomes an ayil, egel v'naisa shor, he steals an egel, becomes a shor, mishalem tashlume kefel v'tashlume arba v'chamisha ke'ein shegonav. That the Brisa is saying that he does pay kefel, or if he slaughters or sells it, he would pay arba v'chamisha. Ke'ein shegonav, like at the value of at the time of the theft. V'isal kadaitech kanye b'shinui, and if it enters your mind, Reb Illa, that this shinui, this change, is enough to make a kinyan, well, if that's the case, amay mishalim, why should he have to pay why should he have to pay these if he slaughters it or if he sells it, why should he have to pay Dalet Vehei? Right? He stole a baby sheep, but he slaughtered a ram. He stole a calf. He slaughtered a ox. And if Rabbi Illa, you're saying that this change makes it makes a kinyan on his part, well then why does he have to pay the Dalet Vehei? It's his thing that he slaughtered or sold. Shelo toveach, shelo hu mocher. Omar le, to which Rabbi Illa responds, ve'elo mai shinoi lo koni. So Rabbi Illa responds, so what are you trying to argue? That the shinoi does not make a kinyan? The shinoi does not make a kinyan? The shinoi does not make a kinyan? So then, amai mishalim ke'ein shagona, mishalim ki hashta. Well, if the shinoi does not make a kinyan, so then how come he's paying at the time of the sale, at the time of the theft? Let him pay, right? If it still belongs to the original owner, so let him pay the value at the time that he slaughtered it. So Amalei ki hashto hainu tamadulo mishalim mishum do Amalei Torah ganvi mimcha dichra, right? Torah ganvi mimcha dichra ganvi mimcha, right? So Reb Chanina responds and he says, well, the reason why he doesn't pay like at the time that he stole it, right? The little sheep or the calf. Wait, what? No. The reason why he does not pay. Wait, what? The reason why he pays like it was at the time of the theft, and he does not pay the current value, is because the thief will argue, I didn't steal an ox, I didn't steal a ram, I stole a little sheep, I stole a calf. So Ella Rachmona, so Amarle, so Reb Illa responds to Reb Chanina, Rachmona Nitzlon Mehai Daito, may God save us from your opinion. Amarle, to which Reb Chanina responds to Reb Illa, Adrabah, Fakert, Rachmona Nitzlon Midaita Didoch, may God save us from your opinion. So there. Maskif lo Reb Zera, so now Reb Zera asks the kasha, V'nekninu b'shinui Hashem. So even if you want to say that like that shinoi is not enough of a shinoi, right? Because it's just like, it just happens on its own, right? The thing just gets bigger. But what about maybe a shinoi Hashem? The fact that it used to be called a sheep, now it's called a ram. It used to be called a calf, now it's called a ox. So on my Rave, says Rave Shor ben Yomo Kori Shor Al ben Yomo Kori Al, because there isn't really a shinui Hashem. There isn't really a change in name, because even a baby a ram is called a ram, and even a baby ox is still called an ox. Shor ben Yomo Kori Shor, how do we know that even a 1-day-old cow is called a shor? Dichsiv, as the Pasuk says, Shor o kesef o eiz ki yivolid, that an ox or a sheep or a goat, when it will be born. So we see even when it's born, it's immediately called an ox. Ayil ben Yom Kari Ayil, how do we know that a baby sheep is called an ayil? Dichsiv, the Pasuk says, Ve'elei tzoncho la'achalti, that Yaakov Avinu says to Lavan, I believe, that I did not eat any of your rams. What was Yaakov just saying? I didn't eat any of the rams, but I did eat the little baby sheep? No, no, he didn't eat any of the sheep. Not the older ones, not the younger ones. So we see that when he was referring to rams, he was referring to rams of all ages, i.e. even baby rams. So therefore, there wasn't really a shinui Hashem, because all oxen are really, right, all cows, all boy cows are really called oxen anyways, and all male rams, all male sheep are called rams anyways. Sorry for the Babylon. Okay. Mikol makom kasha. But still we have that kasha on Reb Illa. The Rabbi Illa had said that if you steal a sheep and it becomes a ram, or if you steal a calf and it becomes an ox, then you're koine with shinui Hashem, and therefore you don't pay. You're koine with the shinui that it was a sheep, now it's a ram. It was a calf, now it's an ox. So therefore it's yours, and therefore you do not pay daled vehei. But we have a brayso that says that you taka do pay daled vehei. So Rav Sheshes Hamani Beis Shammai. So if Sheshes answers and says, oh, that brayso that says that you would pay daled vehei, so that's the opinion of Beis Shammai, the Amri, that they say shinui bimkomo omedes, that even when there is a shinui, everything remains the same, and therefore you would still pay daled vehei v'lo kani, and there is no kinyan, and that is why you pay daled vehei. But Rabbi Illa is holding like Beis Hillel, who would say that the shinui is relevant, and therefore you would be kone, and there would not be daled vehei, because shelo tovech shelo umocher. The Tanya is within the brayso noson lebe esnona, esnan zona, esnan zona, esnan zona, esnan zona. That if a fellow meets with a harlot, and for her payment he pays chitin v'asoson soles. He paid her with wheat, and she made it into fine flour. Zeisin v'ason shemen. He paid her with olives, and she made it into olive oil. Chevre, apparently there wasn't so much olive oil last season. Here in Shuk Machne Yehuda. So I went to the Perig store to buy olive oil, and they only have the 750 milliliter bottles. They don't have the full liter bottles. They said because there wasn't so much olive oil last year. Interesting. There just wasn't so much olive oil last year. Yeah. Perig olive oil comes from Eretz Yisrael. I'm pretty sure. It says it like all over the bottle in like 3 different places that it's from Eretz Yisrael. Maybe even more than that. But yeah, apparently a lot of the olive oil in Eretz Yisrael doesn't come from Eretz Yisrael. It comes from the European Union, maybe like Spain or something. But I think the Perig olive oil definitely comes from Eretz Yisrael. At least if it doesn't, then they do a really good job hiding it. There's like it like pretty much says straight up, like it has like special tags on it and stickers, and it's like this is made in Eretz Yisrael. I'm pretty sure it's made in Eretz Yisrael. But apparently a lot of the olive oil in Eretz Yisrael does not come from Eretz Yisrael. Okay. Akoponim. So she got these olives and she made it into olive oil. And she was paid with grapes and she made it into wine. So the shaila is, so there's the shinui. This is mamash shinui, right? You make it into something else. So tani chada also for tani chada mutter. So one brayso says osir and one says mutter. From Rav Yosef says Rav Yosef tani guryan de me asfork beishamei osrin uveis Hillel matirin. That Beis Shammai is the one who says osir, and Beis Hillel says mutter. So according to Beis Shammai, so according to Beis Shammai, the shinui, it doesn't matter that there's a shinui, right? It doesn't matter that the olives were made into olive oil, that the flour, that the wheat was made into flour, etc. It makes no difference. Whereas Beis Hillel says no, it's mutter, it can be offered, right? Meaning the point is that estin zona cannot be offered as a korban, right? So, but Beis Hillel would say that no, that the shinui is enough to allow it to be offered as a korban, and therefore the brayso which says that the shinui, that if it's a calf and it becomes a ox, it's not kone. That is like Beis Shammai says everything stays the same, but Rabbi Illa is going to be like Beis Hillel, who says that the shinui is relevant, and therefore it belongs to the ganef now, and therefore there would not be daled vehei. My time in the Beis Shammai. How come Beis Shammai says that the shinui is irrelevant? Dichsiv gam. Because it says by Esnin Zona, I'm going to read the pasuk Lo Sovi Esnin Zona Mechirkele Beis Hashem Elekecha L'choneder Kiso Avas Hashem Elekecha Gam Shneim. So Gam L'Rabbis Shinuim, even to include any shinuis, cannot be offered. Vesil Heim V'lo Shinu Yeyem Whereas Beis Hillel says when it says Shnehem, so it's like the Haim, it's only the Esnon cannot be offered as a korban, but the Shinois of them can be offered as korbans. Beis Shammai ahu Haim v'lo v'lo seim hu also. It's saying that the Esnon cannot be offered as a korban, but the Vladis can be, I guess, like, let's say if they paid her with like a sheep or something, so that the offspring would be able to be offered, just not the sheep itself, but the shinois wouldn't make any difference. Those would also be according to Beis Shammai. Beis Tarte Shmoyes Mina. Beis Hillel learns out two things from it: Heim v'lo shinuyim, that they cannot be offered, but the shinois can. Haim v'lo v'ladoseim, again, they cannot be offered as the esnon itself cannot be offered as a korban, but the vladis can be offered as a korban. Beis Hillel aksiv gam, but according to Beis Hillel, what about the word gam? Right, it said gam, which Beis Shammai says comes to include. What's it coming to include? According to Beis Shammai, it's coming to include the shinois. They also cannot be offered. So gam the Beis Hillel kasha. So we say that that's taka good kasha according to Beis Hillel. Yeah, what does he do with gam? Arkan lo plige ella. So now going back to the machlokas between Reb Illa and Reb Chanina. So the machlokas is elo demar sovar shinui kone umar sovar ein shinui kone. That Reb Illa says that the shinui is kone and it belongs to the ganif now, and Reb Chanina says that shinui is not kone and it still belongs to the balabais. So avalein and shalume, but in terms of the payment, kulama kidmei kari mishalim, everybody agrees that that the payment would be kidmei kara, like at the time of the theft, the katoni mishalim tashlum kev tashlum arba v'chamisha kein shegonav, that the kev and the arba v'chamisha would be kein shegonav, like at the time of the theft. Leimet avituv to the Rav. Let's say that this is taka akasha and Rav de Omar, who said, I believe at the beginning of yesterday's daf. Yeah, why not? Yes. Karen ke'en shegonav, that the Karen is like at the time of the principal amount, the initial amount is like at the time of the theft, but Karen ke'en mishalim tashlume. I don't know, am I reading that right? Karen ke'en shegonav mishalim tashlume keva tashlume abba ve'kishas amadu badin. I don't know, where does mishalim go? Is it part of the next phrase or part of the first phrase? Karen ke'en shegonav mishalim tashlume keva. No, it's probably mishalim. Karen ke'en shegonav mishalim tashlume keva tashlume abba v'chamisha kishas amadu badin. That would be kishas amadu badin. So here we're saying that the dalad v'hei would be ke'en shegonav. Yet Rav had said that dalad v'hei is kishas amadu badin. So Amirove says Rav Tzloyim kidmei kara domim kishalachshav. So if he's paying with actual like sheep, so then he would pay, like the actual sheep that was stolen. But if he's paying value, so then it would be kishas hamora badin. Okay, fine. Hey friends, all right. I'm re-recording this right now because the recording for this next chunk was like unusable. So yeah, I'm gonna record this next chunk. I think I'm starting at the place where it started getting like really bad. So yeah, okay. So yeah, okay. Here we go. Amar Rabba says, Rabba shinui kone. Okay, that a shinui is kone. Okay, that I think it's talking about a shinui maise. Okay, I think it's talking about shinui ma'aser, right? That if you like make a change to, right, in items, like let's say you steal something and then you change, like actually make a change to it. We're going to see it in a second. So that makes a kinyan, and instead of like returning the actual thing back, you would give money instead. Ksiva vitanina, and we know this from a pasuk, and we know this from Mishnais. Ksiva, the pasuk says ve'eshev esagzela asher gozal, that you return the stolen thing that you stole. Matam lo asher gozal. Why does it say asher gozal, that you stole? In ke'en shegozal yachzir. If it is in the same condition that you stole it, so return it. Ve'imla, but if you made a change to it and it's a different, it's in a different condition than you stole it, so damim ba'alma ba'ishalume, so then you pay money rather than the actual thing itself. Oh wow. Oh, cool. We literally have the same verbatim thing on tomorrow's daf, which I just recorded a second ago. I'm going back now to re-record this. I didn't even register that that was the second time that we saw it. I think maybe it seemed familiar. Wow. Okay, it's like literally the same thing over. Okay, fine. So we see that if you make a change, a shinoi to it, so then you only have to pay the value. You don't have to actually give the thing, the exact thing back because you changed it. Tanina, and we learn in a Mishnah, Hagozul Eitzim, a fellow who steals wood, Vasan Kalim, and he makes them into vessels. So he changes the wood, makes it into a vessel. Tzemer Vasan Begadin, he steals wool, and he makes the wool into clothing. Now it's not just wool anymore, it's clothing. So you pay money like it was worth at the time of the theft. So we see that you don't actually return the actual object; you return its value. Its value that based on the value at the time of the theft. Inami. Alternatively, we have another, I believe, brayse. Lo hispik litno lo ad shetzavoo poter. This refers to reishis ageiz, that when you shear your sheep, so you have to give the initial shearings to the kohen, but if you dye it, well, then you made a change to the wool, and you don't have to give it to the kohen because the kohen can't claim it from you because it's not like it didn't belong to him, because you could say I wanted to give it to another kohen, so it's not like you stole it from him or anything. And since you kind of made a change to it, it's like different now, and so you're not gonna. You just kind of don't need to give it to anybody. Okay. So Alma Shinoi Kone, so we see that Shinois make a kinyan. What about Yeush? Okay, fine. So we just said, so Rabbah says that when it comes to a Shinoi, if you make a change, like an actual change to the condition of the item, so then it's a kinyan, and you don't return the actual thing, you return the value, you return money. What about Yeush? What about Yeush? What's Yeush? Have we seen Yeush yet? I can't even remember. I don't know what we've seen before, what we haven't. But I think maybe this is the first time that we're talking about Yeush, right? Yeush is if a fellow gives up hope of getting something back, right? So, for example, if Shimon steals something from Reuven, and Reuven says, "Oy vavoy, I'm never going to get it back." So the shaila is, does that mean that it's now Shimon's? Does it belong to Shimon now? Obviously, he still has to pay him back, but does it make a kinyan? Does it make a kinyan? There's other nafkaminas also, as we're going to see, for Dalad Vehei. If he then slaughters it, is he considered like he slaughtered his thing, so he wouldn't have to pay Dalad Vehei? There's different nafkaminas. So the shaila is Yeush Kidi Kone. Is Yeush alone Kone? The other way, alternatively, right, do you need Yeush plus, for example, a Shinui Rishus or a Shinui Hashem, some kind of additional change? So, for example, if Shimon were to steal something from Reuven, and Reuven gives up hope, so that enough doesn't make a kinyan, but maybe if Shimon then sells it to Levi, so now you have not just Yeush giving up hope, but also it's now changed domains from Shimon to Levi, so maybe Yeush plus Shin, Yeush then plus Shin and Rishus would make a kinyan. So the shaila is be'etzem, without getting into too much other stuff, Yeush alone, Reuven simply giving up hope, is that enough for it to be considered like Shimon has been koneh? So Amir Rabbanon dinikne. So Rabbah says yes. The rabbis say, according to Rabbah, that Yeush alone is kone. Yeush alone is kone. Miu lo yadinon either iraisa either abanon. What we are uncertain of is this kinyan midoraisa or midirabanon, right? If Shimon steals from Reuven and Reuven gives up hope, does Shimon own it midoraisa now or midirabanon? Again, that doesn't mean that he's exempt from having to pay back what he stole. The kasha is, does he have to give back the exact item, or can he pay money instead? Right? If Reuven never gave up hope of getting it back, well then of course he's entitled to get it back, right? Shimon stole something from Reuven, and Reuven is wants to get it back. Of course he can get it back. But if he gave up hope of ever getting it back, so then does Shimon give back the actual item, or does he give money? So either Araisa mididahava amoitze avede. So we're uncertain if maybe Yeush is right. That Shimon would be kone via Yeush mida Araisa, just like if something gets swept up in the sea, right, and then somebody else finds it downstream. So you could assume that right. So you don't have to go looking around for who owned it, right? Right. So the fellow who lost it in the river got it, gave a pope, and somebody finds it downstream. They can keep it. So where am I? Mizava motzi aveda lav kevin de miyayish moramino mikamidetesi liode konile. Don't we say that the reason why the finder in that case can keep it is because the loser assumed that he's never going to get it back. He was miyayish. He gave up hope. He's never going to get it back. It fell into the river. So Hainami, so here also, when Shimon steals from Reuven, and Reuven gives up hope of ever getting it back, came into Miyayish Mara, Kani Lei, since Reuven has given up hope, it belongs to Shimon. Alma Kani, so we see that Shimon is Kani Midoraise. Alternatively, Lo Damya La'aveda, no, Shimon stealing from Reuven is very different than somebody finding something in the river. Aveda Hava, where am I? Aveda who when it comes to you find something downstream, so you didn't do any sin when you found that thing. You just found something, and lucky day. Aval hai, but when Shimon steals from Reuven, came into be isura asoy liyade, since this thing came into Shimon's possession through a sin, he stole it. So the fact that it belongs to Shimon technically now is only midirabanan because of takonas hashavim. Takonas hashavim is that we want the guy to do tshuva. Meaning, for example, if a fellow steals a beam and then builds it into his house, if we're going to say that you have to knock down the house and give it back, so then he's going to be very, very upset and he's not going to want to do tshuva. So in the interest of doing tshuva, we say, don't knock down the house, just pay the money. So we say that he's koneh. But that's only midirabanan. It wouldn't be midoraisa. So that is Rabba's shaila, right? He's not sure if when we say that Yeush is koneh, is it midoraisa or is it midirabanan? Okay. Rav Yosef Amar Yeush einu koneh v'afilu midirabanan. Rav Yosef says nisht Yeush kedi lo kani. Yeush alone does not make a kinyan, and not even midrabanan. Yeush kedi lo kani. Yeush alone does not make a kinyan. So Rabbah says that Yeush alone does make a kinyan. The shaila is midoraisa midrabanan. Rav Yosef says nisht Yeush does not make a kinyan. Yeush alone does not make a kinyan. Yeush plus a shinui, makes a kinyan. Eisver Rav Yosef the Rabbah, Rav Yosef asks a kasha on Rabbah. Remember, Rabbah had said that Yeush makes a kinyan. Rav Yosef's asking a kasha. Goes chometz v'ava olav Pesach. If Shimon steals a pizza pie from Reuven, and then it's Pesach, so now it's chometz she'over olav Pesach. It's chometz that passed through Pesach, and you can't use it. You can't eat it after Pesach because he didn't sell. It belonged to him. So it comes after Pesach. Shimon can give it back to Reuven and say, "Oh, Reuven, by the way, here's your pizza pie." Now, v'hai in this scenario came demoto idon isura vade miyayish. Well, comes Pesach. Obviously, Reuven gave up hope and was miyayish and says it's hefker and says that I want nothing to do with my stolen pizza pie because it's chometz. I don't want to own any chometz on Pesach. So certainly comes Pesach time, Reuven gave up hope of ever getting back his pizza pie. And Rabbi, if you say that Yeush is koneh, then why does Shimon just say, here, take it back? You shouldn't be giving back the pizza pie. The pizza pie is Shimon's. Shimon should give back money to Reuven. Should give back money to Reuven. So Rabbi, it sounds like Yeush Kedi lo kani, and the fact that Reuven was miyayish makes no difference. And Shimon gives back the actual pizza pie to Reuven. Amalei, so Rabbi says meh. Ki ka'amina ono, when I say that Yeush is Koneh, it's, for example, Shimon steals something from Reuven. Reuven gives up hope, and Shimon is like, great, he gave up hope, it's mine now, this is awesome. But in this scenario, Reuven gave up hope of ever getting back the pizza pie, but Shimon doesn't want it. It's Chamesh Arba Lava Pesach. So therefore, it doesn't automatically belong to Shimon if he doesn't want it. Says Rabbi, when I say that Yeush Kedi Kani is when Shimon wants it. So then, Yeush, if Reuven was Miyayish and Shimon wants it, then great. But if Reuven was Miyayish and Shimon doesn't want it, so then it doesn't belong to Shimon. Eis ve'abai l'Rabba. Abai asks the Kashan Rabba, Korbano. It says by a korban that it has to be his korban. Velo ha'gazul, not stolen. Now the assumption for now is that we're saying that the korban needs to belong. If we're talking about Shimon offering a korban, the korban needs to be from Shimon's animal. Shimon can't steal an animal from Reuven and be makdash it and offer it as a korban. Now, hey chidami, what are we talking about? Ilema lipnei Yeush. If we're talking about before Yeush, lamali krab shita. If we're talking about before Yeush, right, that Shimon steals Reuven's animal, Reuven has not yet given up hope. He wants to get it back. Obviously, Shimon cannot offer it as a korban. It doesn't belong to him. It belongs to Reuven. Alav la'achar Yeush. So rather, we're saying even after Yeush, Shimon cannot offer it as a korban. Shmamina Yeush lo kani. So we see therefore that Yeush is not koneh, and even though Reuven was miyayish, it still does not belong to Shimon, and he cannot offer it as a korban. So we see Yeush lo kani. So Amar le Rav says to Abaye, you got it all wrong. You got it all wrong. We're not talking about where Shimon steals Reuven's animal and then is makdash it. You got it all wrong. When it comes to Azav, our friend, the Zav. So Azav is an avatuma, and if Azav sleeps on a bed, the bed becomes oichid in avatuma. It's mitame other people. However, it says mishkavo, it has to be his bed. V'lo agazel can't be a stolen bed. Now hechidami, what's the scenario of stealing the bed? Well, if we're talking about that he stole wood and wool and made it into a bed, right? Meaning, if we're saying that it's comparable to the animal, Abaye, you said that it's talking about where Shimon stole Reuven's animal and he made it into a korban. He was then makdash it, made it into a korban. So the equivalent by the Zav would be that the Zav stole wool and made it into a bed. And we're saying that if the Zav then sleeps on the bed does not become an avatuma because it was stolen. But that's not true. If he steals wool, I keep on saying wood. If he steals wool and makes it into bed, that would be a shinur ma'aseh, as we talked about earlier. You made a change to what you stole. You stole wool, you made it into a bed. Everybody would agree that it belongs to Shimon, and therefore it would become an avatuma, right? So would anybody say that a shinur ma'aseh like that would not be koneh? Of course not. Of course it is koneh. Nobody would say that it's not koneh. It is koneh. And therefore, of course, it would become an avatuma. So no, what it's saying is that if he stole his friend's bed and then he slept on it, he would not make his friend's bed tamei to be an avatuma. Hachinami, and therefore the same thing applies to korbano, is the gazal korban dechavre, that he stole his friend's korban, not that he stole his friend's animal and made it into a korban. So therefore, the whole thing about stealing your friend's animal, and is it before Yeush, after Yeush, it's not talking about that. So he didn't steal his friend's animal, he stole his friend's korban. Okay, fine. And we're saying that he cannot offer it. Rashi gives two reasons. If it's before Yeush, so then it wouldn't count as a korban even for Reuven, who owns the animal. Or you could say if it's after Yeush, but still, even if it is after Yeush, what did Rashi say there? Listen, the gozel korban the ilkach afilu la'achar Yeush lokani the korban enu nigzol the cholecha the isay begaza the achmana isay, that an animal can't technically be stolen. So even if it was after Yeush, I guess it would still belong to Reuven, and I guess he still can't offer it when it's stolen. All right, If you steal your friend's korban, so you can't offer it as a korban. It can't be offered as a korban. Eisvei Abai Rav Yosef. Now Abai asks a kasha on Rav Yosef. So Rav Yosef had said that Yeush Kedi lo koni. The Yeush alone is not kone. So Abai asked Rav Yosef, Oris shel balabayis machshava mitamaton. I was really hoping that the audio was better for this part because I didn't really want to have to explain this again. But alright, the audio wasn't better. So I guess I'm explaining again. It's like too much stuff. Who wants to explain that again? But anyways, alright, fine, I'll explain it again. Oris shel balabayis, it's not that hard. Oris shel balabayis machshava mitamaton. And if you have a balabais, just a regular guy, and he's got hides, and he decides that, okay, I'm not doing anything more to these hides, they're done. They're complete. So once in his mind these hides are complete, they are mukhshal l'kabutuma. If like a dead sheretz falls on them, they will become tummy, right? They're able to now become tummy. When they are not yet complete, when they are not yet a vessel, when they are not yet a kli, so then they will not become tummy. But once he decides, you know what, it's done, it's mukhshal l'kabutuma. But v'shel avdon, but the hides of a tanner, ein machshav mitamasum. When he decides, okay, I'm done, it is not yet mukhshal l'kabutuma because he's ultimately going to sell that hide to somebody else, and somebody else might decide, oh, I'm going to take this hide and make it into shoes, right? So therefore, since ultimately he's not the end user, so he's not the one who decides when it's done, and therefore it won't be mukhshal l'kabutuma until somebody buys it and decides at what point it's considered complete. Shel ganif machshav mitamasun. Now, if a ganif steals hide, so and when he decides that it's complete, so it's mukhshal l'kabutuma. And as we're going to see in a minute, the assumption being that a ganif who steals something, the person who was stolen from he gives up hope, and therefore now it belongs to the ganif. So yush kedi koni, and therefore now that it's his, he could decide at what point it's mukhshal l'kabutuma. Shel gazlin ein machshav mitamasun. But a gazlin, the difference in a ganif and a gazlin, I think we mentioned this the other day. A ganif steals when nobody's looking. A gazlin steals and people see that he steals. So since people saw that who stole it, so they hope that he's going to get it back. So there's no yeush, and therefore the machshava of the gazlin makes no difference because it doesn't belong to him. Reb Shimon Omer Chiluf Advarim. Reb Shimon says fakert. Shel gazlin machshav mitamasa. No, by a gazlin there's yeush. If the guy had such audacity to go up to a person and steal something from him, steal this hide from him, I guess in this case. So the victim of the theft is very, very scared. Wow, this guy has such nerve. He's a scary guy. I don't want anything to do with him. So therefore he gives up hope, and therefore so it belongs to the gazlin, and whatever his intent, if in his mind it's done, it's mukhshal l'kabutuma. V'shel ganif ein machshav mitamason. But by a ganif, the guy hopes because the victim by a ganif, when he doesn't know who he is, he's still hoping he's going to find out who he is, and he'll be able to get it back. Mishmamina yeush kone. So we see that yeush is kone. So we see that yeush is kone, right? We're saying that if there's yeush, then it belongs to him, and he decides when the machshava, when it's done, and when it's mukhshal l'kabutuma. Okay, friends. I think hopefully from this point on the audio is good enough that I'm going to stop here because okay. So we see that yeush is enough. Yeush kedi koni. So if it's a kashan of Yosef. Omerle, so Rav Yosef responds, well, here it's talking about that it's not simply, it's not Yeush Kedi, it's not Yeush alone. There was Yeush, but he also then made a Shinui Maisi. He also cut the hide, he did epis to it to change it, and therefore it's Yeush plus Shinui Maise, or Yeush plus Shinui, that is making it his. Okay. Fine. So now we get into some stuff that it's just highly technical. Maybe even almost to the end of the daf, it's going to be highly technical. So I'm just going to put on my highly technical hat. Okay, fine. Now, Maskiv lo Rabbi by Rav Chanan. Rabbi by Rav Chanan asks a kasha. Rav Yosef, you're saying that it's talking about where he cut the hide, but valo itzba shanukan. But here we're talking about an itzba, some kind of table of sorts. The itzba in tzricha kitzua. And this table of sorts doesn't need any cutting. So we're not talking about where he cuts it, because we're talking about this table that doesn't need cutting. Titnan, as we learn in the Mishnah, whenever there is no longer any work needed, so then when you consider it to be done, it's done and it's considered a vessel and it's mukhshal l'kabel tuma. Yesh chesed melacha, but if there's still work to be done, ein machshav mitamato. So then, I guess, I don't know, maybe even I don't know, at that point, as long as there's still work to be done, so then it's not going to be considered a kli, and it will not be mukhshal l'kabel tuma. Chutz min ha'Itzba, the exception being an itzba, that I don't know, machshavim, I don't know, that it automatically, that this little table thing is automatically considered done, and it's mukhshal l'kabel tuma, and I guess you don't need any more cutting or anything like that. So back to so what was this whole kasha? The kasha was that we're talking about this hide that was like stolen, and there was yeush, and we're saying that because there was yeush, and therefore it belongs to the thief, and if he decides that the hide is finished, it's finished, and it's mukhshal l'kabel tuma. Rav Yosef says, well, it's not exactly yeush, it's talking about where it was cut. We're saying no, but it was talking about this itzba thing that doesn't need cutting. So don't tell me that it's somewhere where it's cut. So it sounds like we have a proof that yeush kedi is kani, that yeush alone is enough to make a kinyan. So Elam Rava rather says Rava Hai Milsa Koshiba Rabba Rav Yosef Esun Vitartin Shnin Vilo Iparka Ad Yosef Rav Yosef Bereisha Ufarka. Wow. Again, Elam Rava says Rava Hai Milsa, this kasha against Rav Yosef. Rav Yosef says Yeush Kedi Lo Kani, and yet we have this brisa that sounds like Yeush Kedi is Kani. Kashi but Rabbi Rav Yosef as in retired in Shnin, Rabbi asked this kasha to Rav Yosef for 22 years. Vilo iparka ad Yosef Rav Yosef bereisha ufarka, and Rav Yosef did not have an answer until he became the Rosh Yeshiva in Pumbedisa after Rabba, and only then did he have his aha moment with his answer. Shinoi Hashem kishinoi maise domi. That Shinoi Hashem is just like Shinoi Maisa, that just like you can make a physical change to an object, and then that would be enough to be Kone. So also just a change in a name of how you call something is enough to be a Shinoi that you can then be Kone it. Because Shinoi Maisa, my timer, how come by Shinoi Maisa it's enough to be Kone when you make a physical change? Meikar Eitzim Ashtakelim, because for example, initially something is just wood, but now you make it into a vessel. So Shinui Hashem Nam, you could say the same thing about a name, Meikar Karula Mishcha Vehashto Avrozin. Initially it was just some hide, but now it's this little table thing. So a Shinui Hashem is enough to make a kinyan. So therefore, it wasn't, so by this hide, it wasn't just the yeush that was kone, it was the fact that it also has a different name, that now it's this little table thing. But varei marish, but what about a marish? What about a beam? The iko Shinui Hashem, that there's a change in the name, to meikar kshura vashto talola, that initially it was called a beam, but when you build it into a house, it's now, even though nothing changed physically, it's still that same beam of wood, but now it's called a ceiling. So v'tanan ala marish hagazel shebno babira, and we learn in the Mishnah, I believe in Masechta Gittin, that there was a takana that if you steal a beam and you build it into a house, even though the beam stays the same, shenotel damav, that the thief can just pay back the value. He doesn't have to destroy the whole house. In the hope that, by sparing him the inconvenience of undoing all of his work, he'll be able to do tshuva and repent. Okay, or at least certainly fakert. If you force him to break down the house to return it, he's going to maybe be very upset with the Eibishter. So to avoid that, we say, let him pay the value. But the only reason why he does not need to break down the house to give it back is just because of his takonas hashavim. But me'ikar adin, the beam does not belong to him, and he would have to give it back, even though initially it was called a beam and now it's called the ceiling. So even though it's a Shinui Hashem, it sounds like it's irrelevant. So answer to Gemara, holav. Otherwise he would, but really maker, then he should have to give back, even though the Shinui Hashem. Rav Yosef says of Yosef, Marish Shmo Olav says of Yosef, actually a beam retains its name. A beam retains its name. It's still called the Marish even when it's built into the building. The Tanis we learn in a brisa, Tzlos Habayis Ela Melatatin. The Tzlos Habayis is the I forget. Ve'ubim ela marishos, and the ubim are these marishos. So we're saying that even though it was built into the house, it's still called a beam. Okay. Whereas Rabbi Yosef says the reason why this beam would go back is because even if, yes, initially it was called a beam and now it's called a ceiling, but because you can, just give it back in the same exact condition as it was stolen, just right. So therefore, it's not really considered a proper shinui. Meaning, yeah, sure, it was called this, now it's called that. But like, if you could literally just return it in the same exact state as it was, it's not going to be enough of a shinui for it to be considered a kinyan and belong to somebody else. Okay. V'shinui Hashem she'eno chozer levriyaso. Okay, implying that if you have a shinui Hashem so it has a new name and it does not revert back to how it was before, mihave shinui, would that actually be a proper shinui anyways? But varei zinor, if you take a pipe, if you take like like wood and you carve it out and you make it into a pipe, the mekar ktsitzta v'ashta tzinora. Initially it was called a ktsitzta, now it's called a tzinora. So it has a shinui Hashem, it has a different name, and it's something that you can't just return in the same state that it was before, because before it was a plank, it was just wood, and now it's a pipe. So you can't just give it back in the same state. You've changed it, and it has a new name. V'tanya, we're learning the Brayso that tzino shechaka kol v'sof kavao. So when it comes to a mikvah is a pool of 40 sa'ah that you could tovel people, items in. So now, one of the halachos of a mikvah, it has to be mayim chaim, it has to be rainwater. It cannot be mayim she'uvin. It cannot be still water. And therefore, if you use like a pipe, for example, right, that would be a problem. You wouldn't be able to have water collected in a pipe. So if you have a tzinor, if you have a pipe, shechakako, and you etched it out, l'vasov ka'avo, and then you place it by the pool, and you're collecting water that way. So that's going to be a problem. Posel sa mikvah, it's going to make the mikvah possible. But kavo, if you first took the wood and you put it there, ulvasov chakako, and then you made it, you etched it out into this pipe while it was already there. While the wood was already there, implanted, eno posel sa mikvah, it is not posel the mikvah. V'i omar shinui Hashem milsei, but if you say that shinui Hashem would be significant, that before it was a piece of wood, now it's a pipe, so afilu kvo levasov chakako, well then even if you first put it there and then you carved it out, and now you made it into a pipe via the shinui Hashem, so nami the posel should also be possible, because now you have a pipe there. So shiny shiva the midrabanon he. We say, yeah, but it's different when it comes to mayim she'uvin, because after all, it's only midrabanon anyways, mayim she'uvin, and therefore we can be lenient. But if that's the case, I feel the reisha nami. If that's the case, then why don't we say the same thing in the reisha, that when you first made it into a pipe and then put it there, say the same thing, that we're going to be lenient. So awesome ikad toras kli olav betalush. The difference is that even before putting it, attaching it to the mikvah, it was already a vessel. Hacha ein toras kli olav betalush. But over here, it only became a vessel later on once it was already there. So we say that it's not going to posel the mikvah. All right, fine. Meisvei, we have a kasha, a ganav, a gazlan, anos, that a ganav or a gazlan or a chamasnik, like a fellow steals something and pays later. And steals first, pays later. Not allowed. Hekdesh and hekdesh v'trumos and truma. So if they're makdish, what they stole, it's hekdesh. If they make it into separate as truma, it's truma. Meiser saying meiser. And if they separate it as meiser, what, maybe meiser sheni or something? I don't know. Whatever meiser would be considered meiser. So we see that Yeush alone seems to be enough. Samri Hasam Ika Shinui Hashem. No, over there it's not just Yeush, there's also Shinui Hashem. To make her a Tivla, Vashta Truma, before it was Tevel, now it's Truma. Hektish, make her a Chulin, Vashta Hektish. When it comes to Hektish, initially it was Chulin, now it's Hektish.